Jews get rich working less because they understood something the modern world has forgotten. True wealth compounds in silence, not in motion. This is the Shabbat code, the ancient rest principle that turned shepherds into kings and transformed poverty into generational provision. King Solomon, the wealthiest man in human history, built his empire on this exact foundation, and by the end of this teaching, you will understand why your constant hustle is the very thing keeping you broke. A prayer for financial clarity awaits you at the close. The modern delusion tells you that more hours equal more money, that busyness is the badge of ambition, that if you are not exhausted, you are not committed. This is the greatest financial lie of our generation. Your body was not designed for perpetual motion. Your mind was not built for uninterrupted decisions. Your spirit was never meant to carry the weight of provision alone without surrender. The Torah understood what neuroscience is only now confirming. The human brain makes its worst financial decisions under chronic stress and cognitive depletion. Every decision you make depletes a finite reservoir of judgment. By day 6 of relentless labor, your discernment is compromised, your priorities are distorted, and your ability to recognize true opportunity has collapsed. This is not laziness. This is design. God engineered rest into the architecture of creation itself. Genesis chapter 1, verse 31 through chapter 2, verse 3 records that after 6 days of creation, God rested. Not because he was tired, but to establish a pattern, to encode a rhythm, to reveal a secret. Productivity without rest is vanity, and vanity never compounds. The Shabbat is not merely a day off, it is a weekly financial reset, a spiritual recalibration, a moment when you stop trying to be your own provider and remember who actually controls the outcome. From Friday evening to Saturday evening, observant Jewish families cease all commerce, all striving, all negotiation. They light candles, they share meals, they study scripture, they rest. And somehow, impossibly, they do not fall behind. They accelerate. Why? Because rest is not the absence of productivity. Rest is the foundation of sustainable compounding. Your brain operates on decision-making capital. Every email answered, every meeting attended, every plan adjusted drains this invisible account. Neuroscience calls this ego depletion. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for judgment and impulse control, weakens with continuous use. By the time you reach Sunday evening after a week of grinding, your ability to discern good investments from bad, wise partnerships from toxic ones, real opportunities from distractions is at its lowest point. This is when people make catastrophic financial choices. This is when desperation overrides discernment. King Solomon observed this human pattern 3,000 years before modern psychology confirmed it. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 22 through 23 asks, "What does a man get for all the toil and anxious striving with which he labors under the sun? All his days, his work is grief and pain. Even at night, his mind does not rest." This too is meaningless. Solomon was not condemning work. He was exposing the lie of vain labor, the illusion that provision comes from your effort alone, rather than from divine ordering and strategic wisdom. The principle of diminishing returns governs every economic system. The first hour of work yields high value. The 10th hour yields almost nothing. The 15th hour actively destroys value because exhausted people make expensive mistakes. Yet the modern worker celebrates the 15-hour grind as virtue. This is not diligence. This is self-sabotage. The Shabbat code forces you to stop before diminishing returns destroy what you have already built. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas never come during the meeting itself? They arrive in the shower, on the walk, in the silence between tasks. This is strategic detachment. Distance creates clarity. When you step away from the problem, your subconscious mind continues processing at a level your conscious effort cannot access. The Shabbat institutionalizes this cognitive gift. It mandates the space where breakthrough becomes possible. This is not mystical. This is mechanical. Rest is a tool, and wealthy people know how to use tools. If you are feeling the truth of this, if something inside you is recognizing the trap you have been living in, take 1 second right now and let me know where you are watching this from. I want to know what city or country is waking up to this ancient code today. The spiritual law of trust stands in direct opposition to the modern gospel of hustle. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 through 6 commands, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This is not poetic encouragement. This is economic instruction. When you refuse to rest, you are declaring with your actions that provision depends entirely on your effort, that God cannot be trusted to sustain what you release, that the universe will collapse if you stop pushing. This is the posture of poverty, and poverty always compounds. Solomon did not become the wealthiest king in history by working 7 days a week. He became wealthy by building systems, by cultivating wisdom, by honoring the Sabbath principle, and by trusting that divine favor multiplies what human effort alone cannot produce. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14 records that the weight of gold that came to Solomon yearly was 666 talents, not including revenue from merchants and traders. This was not generated by his personal labor. This was the result of structural wisdom, international partnerships, and the compounding effect of rest-fueled clarity. The Shabbat recharges creative capital. Creativity is not inspiration. Creativity is the ability to see connections others miss, to identify patterns before they become obvious, to synthesize information into actionable strategy. This capacity collapses under chronic stress. When your nervous system is locked in survival mode, you cannot access creative problem solving. You can only react. Reaction is expensive. Creativity is wealth. The Shabbat restores your access to the higher cognitive functions that actually generate financial breakthroughs. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner and one of the most successful investors in modern history, once said his job was to sit and think. Not to trade constantly, not to chase every trend, not to prove his activity. His job was clarity. He would spend hours reading, contemplating, allowing ideas to settle before acting. This is the secular Shabbat in practice. Munger understood what Solomon taught. The best investment decisions are made in stillness, not in motion. The Pareto principle, known as the 80-20 rule, confirms that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Most of what you do each week does not matter. Most of your activity is noise disguised as productivity. The Shabbat forces you to identify the 20% that actually compounds. When you stop everything, you gain the perspective to see what was worth doing in the first place. This is not laziness. This is ruthless prioritization. If this is resonating, if you are starting to see the pattern, take a moment and like this video. Let the algorithm know that ancient wisdom still matters. Family stability is a financial multiplier that modern economics refuses to measure. A household in chaos bleeds capital. Stressed relationships produce expensive distractions. Children who never see their parents calm grow into adults who cannot manage money. The Shabbat protects family cohesion. It creates weekly rhythms where connection is prioritized, where meals are shared, where presence replaces performance. This is not sentimental, this is structural. Strong families produce strong stewards, and strong stewards build generational wealth. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism and a man who revolutionized Christian economics in the 18th century, taught a simple formula: earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can. But he also understood that earning had to be governed by wisdom, not by compulsion. Wesley rose early, worked with fierce discipline, but he also mandated rest, prayer, and reflection. He recognized that a burnt-out believer serves no one. He taught that exhaustion is not a virtue. It is a failure of stewardship. You are not honoring God by destroying the body and mind He entrusted to you. The scarcity mindset is the invisible prison of the perpetually busy. It whispers that if you stop, someone else will take your place. That opportunity is finite. That rest equals loss. This belief system guarantees poverty because it locks you into reactive mode. You cannot build wealth while you are afraid. Fear makes terrible financial decisions. Faith makes patient, strategic, compound decisions. The Shabbat breaks scarcity by forcing you to practice abundance. You rest, and the world does not collapse. You release control, and provision still comes. This weekly evidence rewrites your relationship with money. Nassim Taleb introduced the concept of anti-fragility, systems that grow stronger under stress when they are allowed recovery periods. Muscles break down during exercise, but grow during rest. Economies correct during recessions, but expand during recovery. Your financial life operates the same way. Constant pressure without relief creates brittleness, vulnerability, collapse. Strategic rest creates anti-fragility. You absorb setbacks better. You adapt faster. You compound longer. This is not theory. This is how wealth actually works across generations. Andrew Murray, the South African pastor and writer whose works on faith and surrender shaped millions, wrote that the essence of Christianity is not doing, but receiving. Not striving, but abiding. Not proving, but trusting. Murray understood that the most powerful financial posture is open hands, not clenched fists. The Shabbat trains you to open your hands weekly, to release your grip on control, to let God prove His faithfulness. This is the training ground for every financial miracle you will ever experience. Breaking the pattern of constant productivity is terrifying until you see the proof. John Bogle, founder of Vanguard and creator of the index fund revolution, built a financial empire on the principle of doing less. He taught investors to stop trading, stop chasing, stop reacting to every market shift. His philosophy was simple: buy, hold, and let compounding do the work. This is the Shabbat applied to investing. Rest your portfolio. Trust the process. Let time do what effort cannot. Sir John Templeton, one of the greatest investors of the 20th century and a devout Christian, began every business meeting with prayer. He credited his financial success not to his intelligence, but to his practice of seeking divine wisdom before acting. Templeton understood that the best investment strategy is not speed, but discernment, and discernment requires stillness. He practiced what Solomon taught: "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and wisdom is more profitable than silver or gold." The theory of anti-fragility, adapted to faith, reveals a profound truth. The believer who rests in God's sovereignty becomes unshakable in financial storms. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 22 declares, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it." This is not a promise of effortless money. This is a promise that when you align with divine order, your work produces disproportionate results. 1 hour of anointed labor outperforms 10 hours of anxious striving. This is the mathematics of the kingdom. Practical steps to implementing a secular Shabbat begin with choosing your day. It does not have to be Saturday. Choose one full day each week where you cease all business activity. No emails, no sales calls, no financial planning. Spend the day with family, in nature, in scripture, in rest. This will feel irresponsible at first. That feeling is the scarcity mindset dying. Let it die. Use the day to recalibrate your priorities, to remember what actually matters, to reconnect with the God who owns everything you are trying to manage. Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing and mentor to Warren Buffett, taught that the stock market is a voting machine in the short term, but a weighing machine in the long term. Translation: noise dominates daily. Truth dominates over time. The Shabbat removes you from the noise. It positions you in the truth. It teaches you to measure your life by years and decades, not by days and hours. This long-term orientation is what separates wealth builders from wealth chasers. The final decree is this: rest is not permission. Rest is command. Rest is not weakness. Rest is authority. When you rest, you are declaring that your provision does not depend on your panic. You are announcing that God is bigger than your budget. You are proving that faith is not a feeling, but a financial strategy. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 reminds us, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. There is a time to work, and there is a time to rest. Wisdom knows the difference. Wealth respects the difference. Charlie Munger spent decades proving that sitting and thinking is more valuable than constant action. He understood what Solomon knew. Clarity compounds wealth, but busyness compounds chaos. The modern world celebrates motion, but the kingdom celebrates precision. One wise decision in stillness outperforms 1,000 frantic choices in stress. The Shabbat code is not about doing less because you are lazy. It is about doing less because you are strategic. It is about honoring the rhythm God encoded into creation itself. The final lesson is simple but revolutionary. Rest is an act of financial authority. When you rest, you are not retreating. You are reigning. You are demonstrating that your life is not governed by fear, but by faith. Not by scarcity, but by stewardship. You are proving that you trust the God who promised to supply all your needs according to His riches in glory. This trust is magnetic. It attracts opportunity. It compounds favor. It positions you for breakthrough that effort alone could never manufacture. If this teaching has shifted something inside you, if you are ready to step into the ancient code that turned shepherds into kings, then subscribe to this channel right now. Do not wait. Every video here is designed to decode the wealth principles hidden in Scripture, to show you how obedience compounds into legacy. Subscribe, and let this wisdom become your weekly reset.